Good day, all viewers. Selamat datang and welcome to the virtual colloquium by Institute of Teacher Education, International Languages Campus, or better known as IPGKBA, with the theme Humanizing Teaching and Learning: The Dynamics of Language Education in the Waves of Global Change. I, Annalisa Zaman, your moderator, a lecturer in IPGKBA, will be hosting this interesting session today. Today would be the eighth session of our virtual colloquium, and I hope you will stay tuned till the end of this session because we have a very interesting presentation by one of IPGKBA's very own lecturers. Before we get to know him, let me lay out a few housekeeping matters. First, everyone who attends this webinar series will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register yourself now. The registration link is pinned on the top. Second, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the chat box. The speaker will answer your questions at the end of the session. If we don't answer your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. And last, it would be much appreciated if you could share today's webinar with your social networks. Now, let me introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Amin Yamin Muhammad Yusuf. Welcome, Dr. Amin Yamin. His presentation is entitled Why Can't I Read, Teacher? A Cognitive Perspective. Dr. Amin Yamin Haji Muhammad Yusuf, as I mentioned, is currently a lecturer with IPGKBA. He is from the Islamic and Moral Education Department, or better known as JAPIM, Jabatan Pendidikan Islam dan Moral. He is also the coordinator for the Center of Dyslexia in Quranic Verses of IPGKBA. Dr. Amin Yamin obtained his first degree from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, specifically in the line of Islamic Revealed Knowledge. He has a master's in Science of Information Management, which he obtained from UITM, and he has went on to complete his PhD in Islamic Studies at UITM too. His interest lies in developing innovations for teaching and learning as well as education management. To date, he, together with his students and friends, have actually developed 20 innovations in the field of education. How about that? The field of research that also appeals to him is the study of dyslexia, specifically when reading the Quranic verses. He is most certainly a very busy man, and we surely are lucky to have him presenting in this colloquium. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Amin Yamin.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Tunku Analiza, for the briefing and the time given. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Today, I would like to share about the reading methods with the basic reading skill. This skill is essential for us to master before we go further in our education achievement. Let us look at the slide that I have prepared today for sharing. What is reading? For some people, reading is not an issue to them. They are able to read without any problem at all. For some people, the journey of literacy is very challenging, but at last, they can get the skills. For some people, it is miserable experience, and they still cannot read regardless of the never-ending efforts. Worse, some are badly labeled by their peers and the community in general. The saddest thing is that they are labeled as slow students, even by their teachers and also their parents. It is fact that reading is a complex process. It involves our visual and then data standing to our brain. In addition, it includes the ability of remember the shape of letters, the sound of the letters, the sound of the combination of the letter with new sound and discipline. They also have to recall the information of shape and sound from long-term memory in the short term. Delay in even only a matter of millisecond in the process will cause failure in reading. It also includes the capacity level of our brain. To make it easier to understand, let me explain. Our brain capacity using the different computer processor, like a computer processor. For instance, some of us have a brain capacity low, like the Intel processor 386. Someone will know 386 processor, Intel 386 processor that was invented in 1985, or his brother 486 processor, which is invented in 1989. If in this case, if this the case, it can cause a problem too due to its low capacity or low speed. But if our brain is like AMD Ryzen 9 or Intel Core i9, then there shouldn't be any problem. I would like to emphasize that although the topic is about the general issue of reading, my scope of discussion in the end is about reading Al-Quran, which is under the same skill in Arabic language learning. The difference of the two subjects is that Al-Quran comes with the complete sign, or we call diacritical marks, such as Dhamma, such as Kasrah, we call Kasrah, Fathah, Sukun, we call Tanwin, and so on. And modern Arabic language come with the automatic Arabic diacriticization system. Thus, I can say that reading Quran is much more easier than Arabic modern writing system due to the help of diacritical marks. In Malaysia, Al-Quran and Arabic, Quran recitation, Quran learning, and Arabic can be seen as a second or third language. So we just imagine if a student already have a problem in reading in their first language, what will happen to them in their journey of learning their second and third language, such as English and Arabic. So my discussion, my topic is about reading in that area. We are going to talk about the research discussion about reading as a general. Problem in reading is general. Skill needed in reading, about literacy as well as illiteracy. And I need to state that this topic is still relevant to be discussed, although we are already in the 21st century. So the areas that I would like to focus on are the importance of reading, previous discussion about reading, reading problem faced by children, as well as problem statement, cognitive profiling of Tilawah Al-Quran. Let us move to the next slide, please. The importance of reading. The global literacy rate for all people shows improvement in numbers. It was reported that children at age 15 and above has the literacy rate of 86.3%. The global literacy rate for all males is around 90%, and the rate for female is 82.7%. From the data, we can see that almost 14% of our population is still struggling in reading skill. For the 86 achievement, I personally want to congratulate our practitioner, our volunteers in education, including our teachers, educators, our researchers, for helping society in reading skill, helping society in literacy. This discussion is to have the 14 and the individual who struggle to place themselves in the 86% literacy group. in Malaysia, for example. Okay, the report on the literacy in reading Al-Quran shows it shows improvement from time to time. However, most of the research show that 10% or more are still at the low level of reading and fail to master the skill of reading Al-Quran, although they already received the same exposure, they receive the same process, they go to the same process that is teaching and learning process, so they go the same, they have the same experience like their peers, like their friends. I hope that this discussion can help us in understanding more about reading process, the issue of teaching and learning, reading skill in our society. And from this sharing, I also hope that it can give us some ideas on how to help our struggling children in reading and how to support and help them to be literate. I say this because I believe literacy is a basic human right and reflects the role and reflects the importance of reading and writing in society and all societies. Thus, the importance of learning how to read and write is recognized by almost every country in the world. This skill provides individuals with a tool of communication, critical thinking, attainment of social and cultural power. In addition, reading also help. Reading can also help in the development of at least 7 other areas, such as cognitive development. When we read regularly, our knowledge development will reach in such a stage that is difficult to measure. Reading is proven to improve and support the process of cognitive development. Cognitive development is the emergence of the ability to think and understand. It is about building thought processes from childhood to adulthood, including memory, problem solving, and decision making. It refers to how a person perceives and thinks about his world through facts such as information processing, intelligence, reasoning, language development, and memory. Number 2 is imagination. By reading, we are exposed to so many wonderful things in this world. This help our imagination when it comes to creating and thinking. Through reading, we are painting those pictures of the story in our mind. Books can take us anywhere, everywhere we want to go. Imagination is an important part of our everyday life for all of us. Reading is one of the best way to foster imagination power more intense. The more we read, the better we can build up and expand our knowledge. Language skill. We are developing our language as we read the book because we make clear the meaning of each word while reading the book. We are understanding the meaning of each sentence and we are able to understand what idea the author expressing. Thus, our language skill is going to reach a higher level. Reading books with children have developed their language skill by increasing their exposure to the language. Stories that rhyme in is very helpful for teaching speech and language skill and can help children discover a love of language. For entertainment, there is no better option to excite the mind through pure joy by reading books. By reading books, we can overcome physical and mental fatigue and refresh ourselves. By reading books, we can easily get pure pleasure at low cost. Next, we go get rid of misconception. Reading books free us from misconceptions. Misconceptions are view or opinion that we think are true but actually incorrect. Almost all of us have some kinds of misconceptions. The better way we get rid of misconceptions is to keep an open mind and be willing to learn new things all the time. Reading is motivational. We are constantly inspired to move forward by reading books. When we read the biography of the famous person, the important event of his life encourage us. The reading effect of reading motivate us to make great things, to make great things. We start dreaming of something new, and there are thousands of motivational self-help books out there waiting to be read. Reading makes you wiser. The more we read, the more you read, the wiser we or you will be. Wisdom is about being able to think, able to act and speak with clear and profound insight in any given situation. Wise people are those who have had a lot of experience and have thought in a lot of depth about life. Reading books can give us wisdom over time for sure. That's because when uh, when we read, the reading when you read, you will read about others people experience and insights that you will be able to learn from their wisdom. Last but not least, reading skill can also help in the development through assessment. Through assessment. Almost all tests, we call assessment in education, requires reading skill regardless of the subject. For example, the need for Bahasa Melayu assessment, English language assessment, math, science subject, pendidikan jasmani, or we call physical education, and so on. All of this assessment, all of this subject, the assessment is to assess a cognitive performance. Most of the exam are in the form of word. The instructions and the answer have to be through representation of writing. You can see that reading skill of reading is the basic tools one should master to further their education. Let us move to the next slide, please. Now I would like to discuss about the benefits of reading Al-Quran as Muslim. Qala Allah Ta'ala from Surah Ibrahim verses 14, ayah number 1. A'udzubillah minasyaitonir rajim. Kitabun anzalnahu ilaika litukhrijan nasa minaz zulumati ilan nur. As human being, we constantly need someone to talk and to share our problem while making dua is one. Dua is one of the means to talk to Allah. We can also find answers while reading Quran. It is one of the ways how Allah communicates with us. He sent down guidance for us 1,400 years ago. Allah mentioned Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentioned in the Al-Quran, the surah, the ayah that I read earlier before. Read the Quran and you will be amazed how it speaks and comforts you, and that the answer to your worry may just be in between the lines. Reading Al-Quran also calms the heart. Reciting the Quran is part of remembrance, what we call zikir. It is also form of ibadah. When you do zikir, when you do reading, when we read Al-Quran, we will attain inner peace as mentioned in Al-Quran. A'udzubillah minasyaitonir rajim. Alladzina amanu wa tatma'innul qulub hum bi zikrillah. Ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Those who have believed and whose heart are assured by the remembrance of Allah, unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, hearts and assured. Reading Al-Quran also brings one closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The Quran is the words of Allah. It is a message of Allah. So if you want to get close to Allah, so recite His word, read His message to you. Number 4, reward for each letter recited. Yes, we read it right. Not one surah, not one ayah, not one word, but you will rewarded for each letter that is recited from the verse of the Quran. As Sayyidatina Aisha reported in hadith riwayah from Imam Sunan At-Tirmizi, Man qara'a harfan min kitabillah falahu bihi hasanah wal hasanah bi ashri amsalha la aqulu alif lam mim harfan walakin alif harfan wa lam harfan wa mim harfan. Whoever recites a letter from Allah book from Quran, then he received the reward from it and the reward of 10 the like of it. I do not say that alif lam mim is a letter, but alif is a letter, lam is a letter, and mim as a letter. So we can see that reading is the main gate of each knowledge. Skill of reading is the very basic skill to be multi-literacy. In other words, without reading skill, one remains to be not only illiterate, but multi-illiteracy. Okay, let us move to the next slide. Discussion and research about reading. Reading problem are common problem. Some students, although they have received education in schools delivered by teacher, the same one like their peers, but they are still unable to read. This is due to various factors. This factor can be divided into two, namely external factor and internal factor. These factors are manipulated to create some solution to help those struggling students. Surely. External factors are factors caused by the physical or environment of the learner. Physical factors are factors that involve the physical of the student, such as sight, or we call visual, hearing, and speech. Mild sensory impairment will not have a negative effect on reading ability. However, severe impairment can cause reading disability. Visual or sight is an important element in the reading process. Vision problems will affect the reading process. The reading process begins with seeing and recognizing the words or symbol of the language in letter form. In addition, nearsightedness and farsightedness will cause the reader not to be able to see something in certain distance. Vision problem will have a detrimental effect on children who will use vision at an early stage in reading skill to perceive the image of letters on the written surface display. This will cause problem for the children to continue the reading process at the next stage, which is the decoding stage. Hearing also an important factor in the reading process. Poor hearing will cause problem in learning to read. Those with hearing problem will have trouble distinguish vowel and consonant sound. According to some research, hearing impairment has two categories, namely temporary impairment and permanent impairment. Hearing loss can be treated, and treatment can only be given by a medical doctor and or we call ear, nose and throat specialist, or we call it ENT specialist only. Apart from the hearing, speech also plays an important role in the reading process. Problem in speech will result in problem in reading. Speech problem are problems such as sound confusion, erratic tone, spastic speech, and so on. This is due to emotional problem, growth retardation, hearing loss, incomplete throat growth, and so on. However, not all cause of speech problem can result in problem in reading. These things are considered as a basic to acquire knowledge. This kind of impairment in vision, impairment in hearing and speech usually can be detected easily by the teacher in classroom. In case of any impairment detection, usually those students will be placed under the specific learning program in school, which are conducted by specific trained teachers through some activities in class. In Malaysia, teacher, our teacher use the two instruments, which are Linus checklists and dyslexia checklists to make an early detection. It is done on standard 1 student during their first week of school. Let us discuss about the external factor that will affect reading. In addition to physical factor, reading problem can also be caused by environmental factor. The environment plays an important role in the reading process. This is because the environment, especially a conducive and comfortable home environment, can have a positive effect on the reading process. According to one famous researcher in language Bahasa Melayu, Malay language, about reading, Marohaini Yusof, she stated that there are several things related to the environment, especially the house. Among them are social culture at home, social stability, interaction pattern, and so on. In the classroom, teachers and peers play an important role in the reading process. For example, in the classroom is very noisy and uncomfortable. Students will not be able to read comfortably. Therefore, they will choose not to read. As a result, the student will have a reading problem if this happens continuously. Reading problem also can caused by problem involving the teacher's teaching method in the classroom. The teaching style by the teacher is very important for students, in particularly to acquire information and skill in learning, especially reading. The failure of teachers in the teaching process will have a negative impact on his or her student. In addition to problem in teaching method, problem with the tag use are also one of the external factors that cause reading problem. The simple and interesting tag make it easy for the learner to read and understand the content of the text. However, a tag with high use of language will make it difficult for the learner to understand what is being conveyed through the text. Unattractive text, especially text that have content or reading material that is old and less appropriate to the current situation of student, will also have an impact on students. In addition, texts that are difficult to understand, such as texts that are too long and outdated stories, will cause students to be less interested in reading the text, especially students in primary school. As a result, they will have reading problems because they are unable to practice reading due to the text itself. Reading problems are also caused by teaching duration. This is because teaching duration is an important element in reading to read. The allocated teaching duration for reading, which is too short and insufficient, will cause teachers unable to help students to read effectively, especially students with weak or moderate level of intelligence. In addition to external factors, internal factors also lead to reading problems. There are several internal factors that influence reading problem. Among the factors that are influence reading problem are the reader's inner self-esteem, as well as intellectual and psychological aspects. Aspects of intelligence and student ability to read are interrelated. If students have high level of mental intelligence, then they will be able to pay attention and understand a sentence structure more easily without having to do it repeatedly. There is a significant difference compared to students with lower level of intelligence. Students with low level of intelligence will take longer to understand the reading materials, with those relationship between intelligence with close relationship with intelligence, and reading ability is more pronounced among students at the secondary level than among students at the primary level. This will cause problem for students at the secondary level because their intelligence and ability to understand are more complex with sophisticated sentence structure. As a result, students with low level of mental intelligence will have difficulty in understanding and competing with their peers in the subject they are studying. One question right here. The question is, how about the student who still can't read? Language ability is one of the major factors contributing to reading problem. In other words, learners who do not have high language ability will face a problem in reading. Other than economic factor, family background, and culture, as well as family education, may also affect student reading skill. The school factor, such as school environment, teacher factor, such as skill, motivation, and class size, also contribute to issue discussed. Knowing, we realizing the research about those factors lead to various great contribution towards the increasing rate of literacy from time to time, no doubt about that. Nevertheless, I find that there is a gap that we should discover, that we should discuss and try to venture the new ways of seeing things in helping the struggling learners in reading. If you miss something, how do we answer this if the student asks us as a teacher, why I still cannot read, teacher? Okay, now let us see the reading problem faced by teacher, which are reported by teachers in Bahasa commonly. Okay, then, shall we go to the next slide, please? Among the reading problem faced by children in general, as follows in Bahasa, in Malay language. Problem number one is omission. Struggling students often omitted the sound of some letter when reading, for example, fruit. Fruit, which is supposed to, in Bahasa, is buah. Buah, fruit is buah in Bahasa Melayu. Instead of read buah, the struggle student read uah, which is without the B sound. So uah. The second is repetition. Repetition refers to repeating words or syllables while reading. This act of repeating is not due to stuttering problems. As an instance, is the word we take bola, ball, which means ball in English, ball, bola. Instead of bola, they will read the word as lala. Why lala? Okay, this struggling student repeated the last syllable, which is la. For this word bola, lala, so bola becomes lala. They take the last syllables and they repeat the last syllables of the word, of the reading word. So next is substitution. Substitution letter word in the words being read, for example, ladang, which means farm, is instead of lalang. Ladang, lalang. To make it worse, the letter substitution change the meaning of the words and further, of course, the sentence and the next and the text. In this case, ladang, which refer to a farm, when read as lalang. So lalang is refer to the type of unwanted grass. Reversal. Reversal refer to incorrect order of letters and or sound in words. The letter or syllable are read in wrong order. For instance, we say bala. So the struggle student will read la ba. Ba should be in front. La is the last syllable. So the reversal, la ba, bala, Bala is read as laba. Next is illiterate. Illiteracy is a major cause for most children failure to read well. This condition causes the children or child with pronounce the letter by guessing alone, which result in making the word meaningless or giving a different meaning. Mispronunciation occurs as a result of the inability in letter recognition. The children could not recognize letters, or they do not know how to sound letter, which result in meaningless word. So all this from the omission, repetition, substitution, reversal, illiterate, mispronunciation may help. It may help teacher to answer the question why I can read. It may help teacher to answer why I can read. Teacher, why I can read, teacher. However, the answer is not accurate and specific. From my point of view, we still cannot give the specific answer. If the student further asks, why do I keep doing the same mistake in reading? We will do as a teacher, we will do all the reading practices over and over again. We all know that practice makes perfect. So we keep giving them the same reading practices, the same module, and as a result, some will survive through the hard way and some will still not be able to read. It is a mere trial and error practice from my point of view. Through the discussion of the above factors, it is difficult for teacher to explain specifically to answer why can't I read, teacher. It is also difficult for teachers to provide learning activities that cater the needs of the particular student. Okay, let us move to the next slide, please. Do we miss something? Do we miss something? From the discussion, the problem that we should focus on are the factors that can be controlled by teacher. Can be controlled by teacher in order to provide an appropriate lesson plan for the particular learner. Teachers' knowledge about student strength, teachers' knowledge about the student weaknesses in regards to reading skill can motivate teachers to provide appropriate learning skill, appropriate learning methods according to the student, according to the student individual needs. Teacher also manage to identify the intervention activities. As a result, they can identify, they can create the intervention activities specifically in reading process that need to be improved to complete the reading process individually. From my point of view, we have to look for the cognitive profiling of the student. For sure, cognitive profiling for the student. Cognitive profiling will answer the question why I can't read. It also provide the good direction and information for us, for teacher, in providing the appropriate method for the struggling student in education. Okay, let us move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, why we are using cognitive approach? Why we are using cognitive approach? So cognitive approach, learning style is mostly about cognitive process. Learning style, we call it learning style, is mostly direct to the cognitive process. So cognitive process will go or will the learning style is mostly about cognitive process. The learning process involve a cognitive process. So the learning process in our life directly it involve and go to our cognitive process. All data and information from various input are processed by the cognition. All data we see, we hear, and so on are processed by the cognition. cognition is the center of learning activity, for sure. Cognitive approach make us cognitive approach make use of cognitive model because the reading process is at the cognitive level. Ability to have from the beginning, ability mean that cognitive approach have or has an ability to help the student from the beginning of the learning process, because we know the strength as a teacher, as a parent, we know the weaknesses of the learner through cognitive strength and weaknesses. So cognitive approach also can help to accelerate student performance. We can help to speed up student development. We can help assist the student problem in reading because we use the data, the appropriate data, to overcome their specific weaknesses. Nowadays, our focus in education is geared toward the individual approach, such as differentiated learning, which is in the our project, we call it School Transformation 2035, known as TH25, and 21st Century Learning. Thus, this support my suggestion that cognitive profiling should be used. What are benefits of cognitive assessment? Cognitive assessment brings many benefits. Some of the benefits are providing a learning profile, include strengths and weaknesses and difficulties. A cognitive assessment can identify the learning needs of the student, of the learner. It also can being able to compare to the standardized sample. We can helping to identify the ability and talent of the student, of the learner. Can guiding personalized learning, providing evidence to support a specific application. Another benefit is supporting access arrangements. The cognitive assessment being evidence-based in education. Cognitive assessment also being a robust and comprehensive assessment. So following the cognitive assessment, there will be some recommendation to support the individual learning environment to suit the individual needs in education. Okay, next slide, please. For example, in 2017, I created the cognitive profiling for students in Tilawah Al-Quran or Quranic recitation, reading Al-Quran. The test I call is IDA test that cover 4 aspects. The first aspect is reading skill. The second aspect is IQ skill. The third aspect is memory ability. The memory ability to test the long-term memory and short-term memory student. And the last one is phonological awareness. Okay, who is suitable for the cognitive assessment? As for the cognitive profiling for students in Tilawah Al-Quran or Quranic recitation IDA test, the assessment are suitable for children and young people aged 7 to 9 years old, although they can be used for younger children in certain circumstances. An individual does not need to have high language ability to receive a cognitive assessment. So individuals who experience any of the following could be benefit from the cognitive assessment, such as who is difficult in reading Quran, difficulties with their memory, difficulties in processing information, poor attention, and or poor concentration. What happens during the cognitive assessment? IDA test will take place in school, home, community setting, or in our office in IPG KBA. Institute of Teaching Education International Language Campus Kuala Lumpur, IBA, IPGKBA. The assessment would need to be in quiet room, free from distraction. The most ideal environment for the cognitive assessment would be in a place where the child or young person knows well and feels relaxed, so they are able to be calm and focused. There are variation of each test, and all of the tests measure different abilities through reading, some activities, and some question. The assessment can be long, is up to 40 minutes something. So usually a break will be needed. Which cognitive assessment do we use? The cognitive assessment that will be conducted individually. The main cognitive assessment we use are NNAT. NNAT stands for Naglieri Non-Verbal Ability Test, Non-Verbal Intelligence Test. This test is not test the reading ability. So all of the student or learner that will not have the ability in reading can sit for the test, because the test is intelligent through non-verbal test. Number two, letter test. Letters test to test a long-term memory ability. Number three, we use the short-term test. And last test is a phonological awareness. We test phoneme and rhyme ability, student ability or learner ability. What happened after cognitive assessment? After IDA test, what happened? After the test, we will have a comprehensive idea of the child or young person's need through cognitive side and how to reach their true potential. Following the cognitive assessment, we may suggest further assessment and intervention or recommendation result from a cognitive assessment will be provided through a feedback session or a written report if needed. Support will be given throughout the whole process of assessment. Okay, does cognitive assessment come with a report? There are various reasons for requesting a cognitive assessment. If a written report is not needed, then feedback will be provided verbally along with the brief summary. A comprehensive report is available after a cognitive assessment. Highlight the areas of strength and needs. A report from a cognitive assessment can be used for many reasons, such as you can use for personal, use for medical or school use. What are the additional values of the Quran profiling test IDA? From the IDA test, we are able to identify number one, the normal learner with reading skill, with normal education development within. We can identify the learner. This is a normal learner. Number two, normal learner, we can identify the normal learner with reading problem, which is not due to the cognitive process problem. So number two, we can identify the normal learner with reading problem, but they have sufficient what I call the sufficient. It's not due to their cognitive process problem. Number three is hyperlexic learner. Hyperlexia is when a child can read at level far beyond those expected for their age. Hyper means better than, while lexia means reading. A child with hyperlexia might find out how to decode or sound out words very quickly, but not understand or comprehend most of what they read. Some says that hyperlexic student epileptic children, reading process is not used the right process in reading as we learn, but they still can read. So we manage to identify this epileptic learner from the IDA test. Number 4 is dyslexic learner. Of course, dyslexic is dys is problem, lexic is reading, so problem is reading learner. Dyslexia is a learning disorder that affects your ability, our ability, one's ability to read. They have an ability to read cognitively, but they fail to master the skill. So pity with the dyslexia learner if we are not identify them early stage at their age. Variety of poor reader, variety of poor reader, meaning that the learner that have a lot of problem in reading process. So we can categorize the student after the cognitive profiling test by what we call the IDA test. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, the question, do we use the result from the cognitive intelligence test as a data in our teaching activity? Do we use, especially in Malaysia, do we use the result of cognitive or intelligence test as a data in our teaching activity? Do we have enough data about our student in class and use them as important information before we choose the appropriate teaching method to suit them? From my observation and experience, I could find some profiling tests, but we have the profiling such as laporan profil murid, student report profile, that's it. It comes in TS25, Transformation School 2035. This is the example of report that is used in Malaysia education since 2017 for the school transformation program 2025. This is a good move. This is a good move by our education ministry to record the essential data that is relevant for education in general and for the student development. Yes, it's very good. It's a very good move in our education system. This profile report the as we can see the recorded data, including the multiple intelligence. We can see the psychometric test, PPSI, PJSK, SEGA for the student fitness record, and PJSK curriculum is for their involvement in curriculum activities. The result of academic, we can see at the slide. Academic examination are also reported as well as the achievement tahap pencapaian through classroom-based assessment, which we call as a PBD. The data can be used not only by teachers but also the parent to monitor and assist the learning development of their children. From this report, we can see the overall achievement, the overall growth, record and development of the student. Teachers also can use the data in the process of choosing the appropriate tools or aids in teaching through this report. But it would be good if one or several aspects of cognitive ability and skill are included in the student report profile. I would suggest that the cognitive profiling also be included in the report profile in order to complete the data so that teachers can use the information in helping the development of the student in education. Teachers can also use the data to understand student strength. Teachers can understand student weaknesses to create a suitable approach in teaching and learning activities, especially for the student who need help. As a teacher, we use the data, we use the specific data which is relevant to help us in the process of teaching and learning in school for our children. for our student. Okay, as a conclusion, knowing what type of data to collect, what type of data to analyze, and what type of data to use actually has a great impact on the effectiveness of a school as a learning institution. The data should not only about standardized tests, about standardized test score, data about numbers of A's, the data is about examination, average grades, the data is about the attendance, the data is not only about numbers of computers, what numbers of computers they have in school. The data should include everything which is related to teachers and teaching process. One of the important data that we must look into is the strength and the weakness of students through their cognitive aspect. This is true, especially in Malaysia context. This approach can be easily treated as unimportant, but the cognitive profiling data can give a big impact on the positive progress of our students, especially in this era of data-driven decision making. Okay, that's all my sharing for today. Over to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Amin Yamin, for the insightful sharing. Certainly a different perspective which educators can consider to use. All right. We have actually about 3 minutes left. I think we can squeeze in one question for you. There are a lot of teaching aids or modules that have been created, and some seem to be effective in reducing the rate of illiteracy. So, why you have used this cognitive aspect? So, why do you think we should use it?
Thank you, Dr. Ananza. Okay, let me put it this way.
Mm.
When we have an headache, we cannot do anything because headache it causes miserably.
Mm.
Some sleep all day, and some can bear with the pain. They go to work miserably. Some simply take paracetamol like Panadol, Upamol in Malaysia.
Yes.
So if we are lucky, our headache is cured and the pain goes away. Some other people go and see the pharmacist or sensei, Chinese medicine, and
Yes.
being prescribed the general medicine. Some go to general practitioner, we call it GP, general practitioner, and consult the doctor. The GP examine and ask what are the symptom, then they prescribe the medicine which is common to battle the pain. If the pain still occurs after our GP consultation, we then go to the expert specialist, we call it in headache, or known as neurologist, we call it neurologist. At this stage, they will use the appropriate tools to examine us. They may, for example, use MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, or CT scan to make sure what is cause of the pain. At last, we know what is going on and we know the cause of the pain. As we can
Okay.
see, okay, at the first stage, we use the general medicine to cure our headache. This act is also practiced in education. We see our teacher usually use the general module, general practice in teaching or intervention their student. They use the general, or we call the normal way of intervention. This is, in this case, we don't know exactly what is going on. It is a specialist who can give us answer why the pain occurs,
Mhm.
and the specialist suggests the solution or specific medicine to cure our pain. This is like the cognitive profiling that we discussed
Mhm.
today. Teacher can use the data
Okay.
to give an answer to the struggling student in reading. the teacher can provide the appropriate student activity to help them to overcome the weaknesses in the process of reading directly,
Okay. All
individually.
right.
They can also give
Oh,
the answer to parents and advise them on how to help as well as assist their child to develop and strengthen the skill at home. Thus, as we as teacher, we should like the doctor, the specialist, the neurologist, the hospital. We should able to give the specific answer to the problem using the data and give the specific intervention needed by the student. That's all.
okay. So basically, to zoom into the actual issue of the whole thing, and then only we know how to remedy the issue itself. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin, for enlightening us on your title, on the title of your topic. Why can't I read, teacher? Cognitive perspective. I am sure we have a better understanding on how to apply the cognitive approach in assisting the teaching and learning of reading in the classroom. We hope that you all out there have gained some insights on the matter and also enjoyed the presentation by Dr. Amiyamin. So, this concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have enjoyed this presentation. I would like to thank the, the Educational Technology Division of MOE for the platform and our lovely rapporteurs. Please do not forget our next webinar series, which will be held this coming 30th of September, and it will be live at 11 a.m. Malaysian time. Till then, goodbye from Malaysia.